do not remember ever asking for a horror version of MTV Diaries, but here we are. Trauma. The horror gift that keeps on giving. If there was any confusion at all, Cal Gowner is still king, okay? I'm Nikki, and in this video, I will be talking the new horror movie, Smile 2. I did a video of Smile on my channel when it came out. I saw it in theaters. I was honestly pretty disappointed. I wasn't the biggest fan of Smile. I have rewatched it, I think, about twice. So I've seen it about 3 times now. Still not the biggest fan, but I absolutely love the third act in the house and how that all plays out. Absolutely love it. Now, coming in for Smile 2, I really had no expectations, really. I just went in like, okay, we made a sequel. I'm here. And I gotta say, the opening sequence, that's when I had high hopes. That opening sequence completely blew me away. Smile 2 picks up, I think they said 6 days later. I think it's like 6 days later after the events of the ending of Smile. And when we first started with Cal Gowner's character Joel, I was just immediately annoyed when we saw him because I ended Smile so mad that old girl never told Joel about what the prison guy told her about, like, the only way to survive. But somehow Joel got it. And so we open up Smile 2 with him trying to implement his plan to kill someone brutally in front of someone else to pass on this Smile trauma curse. And when I tell you, I was like, this was actually a good plan, but what did not make sense to me, but we got to factor in, this is the 6th day he's been tormented. And when he first pulls up to this house, we see the burning image that he saw when the girl in the first one lit herself on fire. So he's been tormented, likely not sleeping, likely on the edge for 6 days. But when he goes into the house, he chooses these bad guys, these brothers, and he goes to kill one in front of the other. But when the other guy goes to pick up a gun and he like threatens him, so he puts it down, I'm like, you're a cop. Why did you not tell him to kick the gun over to you? You should have known that when you killed his brother, he would go pick up that gun. That was the only hits to the plan. Joel is like, I need you to see this. I got something for you. I'm here to give you something. And he goes to brutally slaughter one brother in front of the other. But the plan goes awry because the brother that he's supposed to be passing the curse to picks up a gun and starts shooting at Joel. But honestly, even if we did not ask him to kick the gun over, we still kind of could have got out of this. When the guy goes to shoot at Joel, I did not understand why he didn't just run out of the house instead of shooting back. He shoots back and kills the guy. That's not how you passed on the curse, babe. So now he's like upset, freaking out because there's no one to pass the curse on to. They're both dead. And this is when he realizes there's a kid, well, you know, not a kid, a young guy, I say kid, hiding in the corner. And he's like, this wasn't meant for you. I'm sorry. But obviously, this young guy was able to see this go down. So that's who we've passed on the trauma curse to. And he's like, sorry for what? Like, so Joel is just content. Like, you know what? I was trying to give this to some people that didn't deserve, you know, like the people he chose. He said something like, you killed an innocent woman and her baby last year. So obviously he's a cop. He probably, you know, was able to select somebody that he was like, okay, this is a piece of crap, you know, not so good person. Let me pass this on to them. He didn't want to just give it to like anybody or a good person. But hey, I guess in the end, he was like, let the chips fall where they may. He ends up going to leave out of the front door, and just as he opens the door, there's a group like, yo, who the hell are you? They start running towards him, and we get this great like little shootout scene where they're shooting at Joel, and Joel is trying to get out of this house that's like completely like, there's a chain on the back door, windows are boarded, like he's having a hard time getting out. And he goes to like, he hides himself, like barricades himself into a room, and the guys are trying to get into the door. Joel is kicking out the air conditioner, gets out the window. This opening was so good. It was so intense. And one thing I always say I love that we do not get enough of with our genre mashups is action and horror. And this opening sequence was so good with the action horror mashup. And just as Joel is running and the guys are at the window shooting, and you're like, is he finna get shot? He gets hit by a car. And I love how they did this, because anytime we have a scene in a movie where the character gets hit by a car, I literally always see it coming. What's most prevalent in my mind right now is the very first Final Destination when old girl is like, you both can just drop dead. I knew she was, anytime people is walking into the streets, you know they're going to get hit. So I love how they did this, because I can't even remember if we saw the street, but you're so focused in the scene on the guy shooting at him, like, is he finna get shot just as he's getting away? The car just bam. And was that one continuous shot for the opening? I think it was, but it was so freaking good. And I love the scene when we see the carnage after the car hits Joel, and you see the shoe with the foot like ripped off the body, still in the shoe on the ground, laying in blood, and the blood trail is a smile. They did everything right with that opening sequence. Everything, no complaints. That opening sequence was brilliant. It was amazing. I absolutely loved it. Now, after the opening sequence, things started to go a little downhill for me. When I went into this movie, I really did not know literally anything. The only thing I saw was honestly the generic horror movie poster. I don't know why they used that. Like, that poster was not giving. It just felt like a generic horror movie poster. But that's literally all I knew. I didn't even know if we were going to start with Joel. I didn't know if he was going to come back. I just, y'all know how I do. I just go into stuff blind. But so I did not know this would be centered on a pop star. Honestly, if I knew that, I likely would have skipped this. I literally got enough generic pop music with trap. This movie is centered around Sky, played by Naomi Scott. She is 1 year after a traumatic car accident that killed her boyfriend, who was the other passenger. I do not want to see any more pop star storyline in horror or thriller movies. Like, I don't. The pop music, the interview that she had, the dance rehearsal, the fan signing, singing at the piano. I am not trying to see a horror version of MTV Diaries. Like, I'm just not. Now, the only thing out of those that I just named that I would leave in was the fan signing. The fan signing was actually pretty good, but like, sitting at a piano singing, like, I don't want to sit through that. I mean, I don't. I was not here for all the pop stuff. The pop star stuff. It just wasn't working for me. And it was pretty obvious to me off rip, okay, I know her connection. It's going to be getting drugs from the guy that it was just passed to. And that was absolutely her connection. She's like 1 year sober, but she has a back injury from the car accident. And because of her drug history, they will not provide her strong medication outside of, I think the strongest they said was Tylenol. So Sky goes to see the guy from the opening to buy drugs. And she gets over there. He like answers the door with a sword. He's on edge because of course he has the curse. And he doesn't remember texting her, which I feel like, oh, it was probably the smile. It was the smile that text you, girl, telling her to come over. Because he's like, I don't remember doing that text. When I tell you, this sequence, it was actually pretty good. I really enjoyed the actor here that was playing the guy who was passing the curse to Sky. But when he leaves out of the room to go get the drugs, I get he's acting crazy and she's just thinking, oh, he high on drugs because he does do a line of coke like while we're there. But the way he comes out of the room when she goes to look for him, the way I would have just ran out the apartment when old boy came out that room screaming, because you know what they do in the moment where they're screaming and getting taken over by the smile. So I think his name was Lewis. Lewis in this scene ends up getting infected with the smile, picking up a weight and taking himself out. And I actually thought I liked this sequence, and I thought this was a really cool kill. The visual, I thought it was great gore. And pretty much the moral of the story for Smile, don't buy drugs or you'll end up cursed. But I just feel like the pop star celebrity backdrop to the story, it's just something I could care less about. I don't find it intriguing. I don't find it entertaining in the slightest. I definitely don't want to sit through the generic pop music. I don't know. The whole celebrity backdrop is just something that just does not work for me at all. And like I said, the one moment that I mentioned earlier that actually worked for me was the fan signing. There was a smile, creepy little girl that was at the signing that really reminded me. She was giving vibes of like the pale faced girl from Terrifier. I really liked her, and I wish we like kind of utilized her a little more, but she was a really nice addition. And then I liked how we had the psycho stalker male fan who had nothing to do with the smile. We have a little plot line in the movie about Sky and her being a toxic friend with one of her ex-friends, Gemma, but she's going through so much that she ends up reaching out to Gemma. And considering the fact that with the first Smile movie, we had that lead in her living room talking to her therapist, and then the therapist calls on the phone and we realize it's the Smile, not her therapist, I immediately was like, this ain't Gemma. Like, duh, this is so obvious it's not Gemma. As we're going through the movie, honestly, I wasn't very thrilled, but the performance of Naomi was, stand out. Amazing. One of the best performances this year. The way she was like losing her grip on reality. She kept ripping her hair out. And the whole atmosphere of this movie worked a lot more for me than the first one. I love the upside down city shots. I thought it really added to the feel and atmosphere in this one. And if you were here for my review last year, I hated the upside down shots of the city that they did in the first one. It just did not work for me at all. But it really worked here. And so let's fast forward. We have a pivotal moment where Sky is asked to do like this charity thing where she has to give a speech, right? I get such secondhand embarrassment from other people spiraling when like public speaking and being really awkward. So that was so cringe for me when Sky is up on the stage. The teleprompter isn't working, but of course it's likely the smile that's making it not work for her. So she just started just talking and just saying stuff. And it was actually just such a... I really feel like I was not very enthralled with this movie. Especially like I love the opening sequence. Then like that first to middle half just didn't work. But the common thread that really carried it for me was the performance of Sky. And this was such a great moment as far as her performance. When she was on stage, it was killing me. The lipstick being messed up. But then we have a really great moment where her boyfriend is actually played by Jack Nicholson's son. And she sees him in the audience. Okay, we see creepy, smiley, dead boyfriend in the audience. He starts walking towards her. And the way I was screaming in my head, because why not just run off stage? Like, girl, you're in here in front of a ton of people when she's trying to convince herself it's not real, and like close her eyes and she looks up, he's disappeared. Like she looks into the crowd and she's still just standing there, and it was killing me. But literally one of my favorite things in a horror movie is when we do the shots where we linger. Like, I like that. I like how you feel uncomfortable. So the way she's on stage and we're just lingering here, like, it was killing me, but I loved it simultaneously because it was so uncomfortable. And I was like, bitch, run. Like, I don't understand. I would not still be standing on that stage. Like, I wouldn't. I would have just left. Like, I'd rather just leave than stand up here looking foolish. But baby, when she's up there and all of a sudden the boyfriend pops up again, there's actually an older lady on stage with her. When she knocks this poor old lady off the stage, I was dying. Yo, did the old lady do her own stunts? Like, who was tossed off the stage during the filming? I just thought this was so hilarious. It was just so funny. Like, that poor old lady, they tossed that old lady like a rag doll. Like, it was so hilarious. And still, Scott was just standing there. And I was like, bitch, get off the stage. Like, it was killing me that she was just like lingering in this moment. Like, girl, go. But literally, kudos. Great performance from our lead actress. I've never seen this girl before. I went to like look at her credits. Like, have I seen her and just don't recognize her? But no, I've never seen anything she played in. But she was freaking phenomenal. Now, we end up having the guy from House, one of the doctors from House, texting Sky to like meet with him. Well, first of all, we just got like these, his name was Morris in the movie. But first we got these like anonymous texts that honestly, I don't have much context on. I hate when movies have us read text on the cell phone screen. Baby, I got bad eyes. Even with the glasses. Like, it kills me trying to, like, I literally have to, like, still squint even with my glasses to try to read the text on a cell phone screen in a movie. Like, it's too small. I can't do it. It'll give me a headache. So the most I could make out was she did get some kind of like, I know what you did last summer text. Like, I know what you did in the drug dealer penthouse last night text. But I really couldn't fully see the full like text thread and exchange between him and between the ex-friend. But she meets this guy Morris. They meet up together at like this club, wanting to meet in a public place, presumably. And he's having a conversation with her about how his brother was infected by this smile demon, and he traced it to the guy she got it from. And by the time he got to him, he was dead. Nobody was there. And he saw that the last number that texted him and he contacted was Sky. So presumably she's a big superstar, so how can you contact her? This was actually a good story of like how he was able to get a pop star's phone number. The fact that he got it in the dead guy's phone, like, okay. And he's trying to like tell her, I want you to help me destroy it. I have a plan. He kind of had the plan of like Denzel Washington in that movie Fallen. Like, we need to kill you and then bring you back to life, because like the power of this entity is killing you and passing this on. So let's not let the entity kill you. I'm trying to think of why that feel like the ending of Fallen with Denzel. He went out to that secluded house. Oh, you know what? It might be more like the first movie, Smile, where she goes by herself. I don't know. It was giving me Denzel and Fallen, because I could have sworn. But y'all, okay, I might be mixing it up. Let's move on. She is freaking out like, wait, you want to kill me? When I tell you, if I was Morris, I'm like, okay. In the moment of watching the movie, I was like, I would have pitched a lie and just got her alone and like stopped her heart myself and just like went along with my plan myself. When he ends up saying to her, because she's freaking out, don't want to listen, he's like, it's been feeding on you for 3 days. Baby, at this moment in the movie, I wasn't clear on the timeline. So when he said 3 days, I said, oh, she cooked. She cooked, because it's only 3 days in and she losing her marbles like this. You're cooked. It's over. It's over. I was like, baby ain't finna last much longer. It got its hooks and grips in her. I wasn't too into the movie, but now we're about to get to a point where I perked up and was like, oh, this some good shit. So Sky gets back home after this meeting. She's packing her bags, and I was kind of confused, like, where you think you can run to get away from a curse, girl? Where you think you can run to get away from what's in your head? But Sky is at home. She's packing her stuff up. She ends up hurting her back. And one thing I will say is I like the version of our main character spiraling in this Smile versus the first Smile. I think her name was Rose. I like how this is pretty much going to be a carbon copy, just going into the sequel of the first one, because you pretty much know how it goes. Someone dies traumatically in front of you, the curse passes on, you start seeing things, you start getting haunted. You know what I mean? Like, it's pretty much that same formula. So I can appreciate how Sky spiraling looks different and plays out differently than Rose. Like, I like how they did that. For some reason, it was just so much more intense and hard hitting in this movie. But when we're in the apartment, there's like a crowd. Was it her dancers? I think it was like a crowd of like her dancers in her apartment, but it was the Smile. And I love how this whole sequence plays out, where they're kind of just, it's kind of like, what was that challenge on the internet back, the mannequin challenge? Like, they're just standing there, like, not moving, just posed. And she looks away, looks back. And when she looks back, they're like posed, but like differently. Like, it was just so good and so creepy. And then we get a whole sequence after they're doing the mannequin challenge of them chasing her through the apartment. Oh, and I forgot to say, I think this scene starts where, I think she saw that. Did she see that stalker fan guy and like his clothes on the floor or something? But anyway, all of this was brilliant. The whole apartment scene, it was a very interesting sequence for me. And then, but what was kind of throwing me for a loop throughout the movie is as we're going through Smile 2, I was pretty much like when she's at the stage trying to give her a speech, I was like, okay, we know this stuff is in our head. I was like, child, it can't hurt us until the very end when it's ready to take us over. I wouldn't really be worried or shook up about these things. But when we're in the sequence at her apartment, they were like tossing her around like a rag doll. They ripped her hair out from the scalp, and that ish felt visceral. Like, I felt that. And I was like, then it goes to like stuff its hand down her throat. And I was like, wait a minute. It only goes down your throat when it's possessing you. Why would it be possessing her when there's no one here to witness it? And I was just confused how, like, throughout the movie, other people were seemingly infested with the smile and able to, like, hurt her. But it pretty much, I guess they were just expanding on, like, the powers of the smile and what it can do. But I like how the story with Sky, for me, felt more layered. And it wasn't, and I guess I also felt like with the first Smile, it was just pretty, like, typical family trauma. And you could say this is typical, like, pop star. Like, you could put, who was them people? Britney Spears or Brittany Murphy or like, what's the redhead girl? I can't think. But you know, like you could say it plays out as like a typical pop star on drugs, partying type of thing. But it feels more layered and more interesting and more intense with, first of all, I love an unlikable, terrible ass human being lead female character. Like, that adds another layer with this character in Smile 2 than with Rose. Like, she was just a horrible person. She was a toxic friend. And one thread we have with like her trauma background with that car accident, when they tell us that the boyfriend was driving, I just feel like she's a terrible person. I'm pretty sure she was driving or she did something to cause the wreck. Like, that was so obvious. But even though it was obvious for me with the clues of like this character and who she is, I love the scene that we got with the final reveal of exactly what happened with the car wreck. I thought she was driving, but she wasn't. Paul was driving, the boyfriend, but she did caused the wreck, literally grabbed the wheel and literally caused the wreck, she killed him. The crash was her fault, but this actual scene I thought was so good. The acting in the scene, the drunk driving high, it felt so real. It felt so intense. Like, it was actually really good. So this was an example of something being predictable, but in the execution still being really exciting with how they did it. Just love that whole situation. And then from that, Sky wakes up in like a treatment center or something, and we end up having this really great argument with like her and her mom. And this is where we tread into like the generic family mama, like traumatic, like trauma stuff. But I just feel like the scene was crafted so well. The acting was so good. Like, I really enjoyed this little back and forth argument with the mom. But then she changes into the Smile Demon. And I love how this is going down, where she breaks a mirror, gets glasses, like stabbing and murdering herself, and Sky simultaneously is trying to like rip an IV out of her arm. And I'm just like, is it that hard to pull an IV off? But it was like so good and so intense. So from the apartment I love the opening sequence, didn't like anything else. Then from the apartment, where like her dancers are there, like in this real creepy like sequence, through to her in this scene, I thought it was gold. I thought it was so good. I was like, okay, I'm here for this. Like, this sequence, this segment is so good. The mom is like stabbing herself in all of this. And I simultaneously was feeling like Sky was doing it, but then I also was just confused because I was like, it seems like the smile keeps infecting other people, so I really wasn't clear. So they end up revealing, like, Sky is trying to run out, and all of a sudden blood is all over her, the glass is in her hand, she killed her mom. And I was like, oh wait, so it was Sky? Again, shout out to this motherfucking actress. When she's smacking herself in the face and she's saying it's not real, so good. So I think the best it's not real that sticks out in horror for me is Kate Hudson in The Skeleton Key, when she's like, it's not real, it's not real. Like, that acting was so good. This is up there with that, baby, when she's smacking herself in the, it's not, like, it was so good. Like, her performance is literally the anchor of this movie, of what makes it good, even throughout all the stuff that I didn't like. She is that anchor. You know, we don't get awards and Oscars for horror. We need an award ceremony strictly for celebrating horror, because this performance was literally phenomenal. Naomi Scott as Skye, like I said, was literally the anchor, holding this movie together for me and making it enjoyable, even around all the stuff I couldn't stand. But baby, they end up ruining it, because starting at the apartment sequence, y'all had me. Y'all had me. I was in y'all grips. I was here for everything. But then Skye goes to escape from out of here. And again, this whole hospital sequence I thought was really great. She goes to put on a hoodie, even though I'm like, baby, you can still see your bloody gown at the bottom. But she's disheveled. She ain't thinking. So she put the hoodie on. She's trying to get out. And she's trying to go through this common area, and she's trying to get to the exit. And that's when, like, I think this guy's like her personal assistant. He sees her and he's like, oh my God, I think she's hurt. He starts calling people over, and she ends up getting the security guard's gun by faking like she's hurt, and, you know, like he's finna like help her up. And they end up ruining it, because once Skye gets outside, Gemma pops up. And like I said, from the therapist in the first one, I just knew this wasn't really Gemma. And we're driving in the car, and it's pretty much the same reveal as the first movie, where Rose was talking to her therapist and then the therapist called on the phone. Well, Gemma is driving, and then Gemma calls on the phone. So Skye is all like, it's in my head. They revealed that Skye is actually the one driving. Gemma isn't there. So next thing we know, Skye goes to meet up with Morris, and, you know, the guy from House that has the whole plan. So he takes her to an abandoned Pizza Hut, because we're going to put her in the freezer. We're going to stop her heart, but we need her brain to be okay. So we want to put her in the freezer. And we tried to give Skye a little arc, because she is a terrible person. But by the end, like, she was trying to get Gemma to get out of the car, because she doesn't want to ruin her life. And then when she's with Morris, she's like, if your theory doesn't work, she hands him her gun that she got. And she's like, if your theory doesn't work, if you see me start to change, if you see me smiling, shoot me in the head. You have to stop this thing. So by this point, she's more concerned with other people's well-being than her own. So that was a nice little arc for such a piece of crap character. He goes to get her down. We're getting everything together. We're about to start. And all of a sudden, Morris is like, don't move. I have to go get something. The second he did that, I said, oh, nah, something ain't right. I didn't quite know what it was, but him leaving out of that room did not make a lick of bit of sense. Like, it made no sense at all for him to just randomly leave. Like, baby, everything's supposed to be together. Why are you walking out and leaving her alone? So she's in there, but so that's why I say the movie takes a nosedive for me. It goes off the rails. It was like, baby, y'all was cooking. And then y'all ruined it. So he leaves, literally never comes back for the rest of the movie. Never comes back. And I was very confused, but presumably with the reveal that we're going to get, I'm guessing he was never real. Like, was Morris just never real? But she's in there by herself. She's calling for Morris. All of a sudden, she looks up and she sees, like, herself from a year ago hanging, like the car accident is over her in the ceiling. It falls on her. She falls down. She ends up in a fight with the smile demon that looks like her from a year ago. And I really thought the visuals looked terrible. Like, it's like choking her. She's on the ground. And then we look back at it like a jump scare. And it just looked bad to me. Like, I wasn't here for the design of this. I wasn't here for it. I thought it looked bad. I thought it looked generic. Like, just generic horror stuff. And she's fighting with the thing. It goes to put its hands in her mouth, but she bites the entity smile demon thing fingers and goes to inject herself with the drug to stop her heart. But No needle is even in her hand. Nothing is real. Now, I did enjoy certain moments of how the movie played on like what was real. For example, when she's in bed and Gemma goes to say something and she's like, what the hell? It worked with the theme of this movie, but I hate the trope of like the horror dream fake out sequence. Oh God, when we get to like it was all a dream horror trope, literally the worst ever. And I'm not someone that's against horror tropes, like they're tropes for a reason, depending on how they're executed, they can work. But it was all a dream, I am hard pressed to ever recall the time it worked. I feel like maybe it worked like one time, but the way they did it here pissed me off. Basically, the entire sequence of everything we just saw, the apartment, which obviously we knew the apartment like wasn't like real, but the whole waking up in the hospital, killing her mom, all of that was fake. It was just pissed me off. To have such a long segment, the clinic, the Pizza Hut, to all be a dream or illusion, I just like it was such a cop out. And honestly, just felt cheap, as if the writers didn't know how to get Skye to this big concert that the movie has been talking about. I was literally sitting there watching the movie and she's on stage from that freezer and I was like, oh God, a concert. Like, I just sat through Trap. I don't want to sit through the pop shit. I don't want to sit through the concert. But luckily, we didn't sit through a concert. But she's at the concert. She's on the stage. Her mom ain't dead. Like, y'all, I was so annoyed just to find out everything just wasn't real. Like all the best stuff, like when y'all were finally cooking, it wasn't real. That pissed me off so bad. But she's on the stage and she sees like herself. It's the smile demon, that's her. And she has a scar that she's self-conscious about on her stomach. It rips the scar open and like this entity comes out and gets her. You know, because like in the first one, when the thing comes out and like crawls into your mouth and possesses you. Like I said, I wasn't the biggest fan of the first Smile, but that third act I thought was amazing. And they was cooking with that third act. And just visually, I thought it was amazing. Thought it was stunning. And then we get here to this third act. Nothing about it works for me. Nothing. Visually, it wasn't working. I thought this was terrible effects. Like, I could have sworn, like I'm not, I always say I'm not a CGI snob. I'm really not. Even bad CGI does not ruin a movie for me. But I do prefer practical effects in my horror. But in my unprofessional eye, I feel like in the first Smile, that ending sequence demon was practical effects. Maybe they might have cleaned it up a bit with like some little CGI, but that was practical. But then we get here to this third act and it all looks like terrible CGI. What happened to that great practical effects team from the first movie that made that demon? Why were they not called back here? Because this looked terrible. And from somebody who's not a CGI snob, like, it has to really be, I always say, it has to really be some bad CGI to really bother me. And this bothered me. I thought it looked fucking terrible. And then I was annoyed because she gets infected and goes to take herself out. And I was like, why does the director have us looking at the crowd when she's taking herself out instead of showing us her taking herself out? We look at the crowd and we hear her killing herself. And then we just look back and see the aftermath of what happened. I hate this fucking ending. They really started cooking. And then they ruined it. And then the ending took a complete nosedive. I ended up giving this movie a 2.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd. And it really could have been a 3 out of 5 for me if that ending was a lot better. I do feel like with Smile 2, they improved on the character work, on the scares, the atmosphere. The first Smile for me honestly felt like very generic horror stuff, like enjoyable, but typical horror stuff, like with the jump scares. Even the scene in the very first one where she's like walking past the doorway and then her peripheral, the guy's like smiling, you know, just that regular generic horror stuff. Enjoyable, but you know, the typical stuff horror we always see. But Smile 2, I thought the horror element felt way more creative, particularly like that dance sequence, for example, inside the apartment. I just thought we really amped everything up and got more creative with that stuff. The CGI in the movie wasn't working for me. It was really killing stuff. Like, oh, that ending was just so bad visually, but really great casting. I thought this was a really good ensemble. Characters, everyone was enjoyable. The mom, like, I thought all the little, like, wasn't it like a little manager, whoever it was that asked her to come to do the charity thing? Like, I thought the ensemble was really good. Shout out to Naomi Scott, because she was stressed and crying and terrified for the entirety of the movie. And I literally have always said that I personally think horror acting is some of the hardest. Like, to have to be terrified on cue and not come off like silly or over the top, like to really pull off terrified. She did that shit. Like, she did it. It was amazing. I would have a headache. Like, I would have a headache crying and having to be stressed for the whole shoot of the movie. She was so freaking good. The ending sequence or Smile was more hard hitting for me. The monster was better. The visual of the monster crawling into Rose's mouth was better. The lighting, the scenery, the location they chose with that abandoned house was a lot better. I didn't like anything about this ending. First of all, I didn't like that when they were finally cooking, we get the it was all a dream fake out. I don't like the location of the concert. I don't like the visual of the monster. I don't like showing us the crowd as she's taking herself out and then showing us the aftermath. I actually would have preferred an ending where none of that hospital stuff was a fake out. She really killed her mom. Morris was real. But we needed something, and of course I still wanted to end tragically where she doesn't win. But even if we had to go to the concert, which I'm just not a fan of that location, but I would have rather Sky like brutally murdered someone else on stage to try to pass the curse on. I don't know. I just feel like they were really building something up, but where we went was just very unsatisfying. I don't know. Other than me just being really happy that the actor got work because I like him, why the hell was Morris even here? Like, what was the point of that? Why was Morris even here? That really, really irks my nerves that was all just a fake out. And I'm just like, if all of that was fake, so how were people talking and interacting with her, getting ready for the concert, when they're doing her makeup, when she, like, how do we even, I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense to me at all. I would love for Smile 3, like, presumably, because, you know, we have to have a thread of trauma. Presumably, the whole audience is not about to get the Smile curse. I would love for Smile 3 to show, like, a friend group that it gets passed to. Like, I want to see a group go through this. I want them to really up the ante. Like, keep the good character work that you did in this one with Sky. But I love how Smile and Smile 2 has the guts to not give happy endings. We do not get that often. I love a villain wins horror movie. Like, the curse wins. Both times Rose didn't make it out, and Rose was a good person. Sky didn't make it out. I love that. But I feel like we got quite a few iconic horror openings this year that are going down in history. And Smile 2 opening going down in history. Thank you so much for being here, supporting the channel. Please make sure you are subscribed. Please consider a channel membership where you get extra content and exclusive things, watch alongs and everything over there.
Take your best shot.
Let me know in the comments, how did you feel about Smile 2? Were you a big fan of this movie? Did you like it more than I did? I thought overall it was okay. It was fine. They pissed me off when they really started cooking. But, and are y'all sick of like the pop star thing? Like, I'm just not here for that. I hate it. I can't stand it. I literally, it's just such an annoyance for me. But thank you so much. I will see you in the next one.
We'll make her one of us. A loving cup, a loving cup. We accept her one of us. We accept her one of us.
Goober gobble, goober gobble.
We accept her, we accept her. Google gobble, Google gobble. One of us, one of us. Google gobble.
They're going to make you one of them.